AJOB 30. Listening to POD the Messenger. So thank you everyone for joining us today on the Adam Josh Oral Brog number 30. My collar keeps coming undone, but you know what, we'll just take that off. Or I can like put it right here. How about over here? There you go. So let's get right to it. The Adam Josh Oral Brog for today. This computer being a little weird, so it might get a little choppy. Seems like it's okay right now. I wanted to talk about the various and many ways that I am a dead man. And if you all have your scriptures here, we'll turn to Leviticus chapter 20. This is one of my favorite collection of various books to read. One of them. I've read this thing front to back probably about 12 times. I'm on my 13th time, I guess now, or 12th time. I'm in Leviticus for 3 Moshe for you Hebrew, Aramaic speaking people. So Leviticus chapter 20, I wanted to skim down and just really drive it home how we're all, most of us at least, myself included, are dead men walking. Then Yahweh spoke to Moshe, saying, "You shall also say to the sons of Israel, any man from the sons of Israel or from the aliens sojourning in Israel who gives any of his offspring to Molech, I shall surely put him to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. I will also set my face against the man and will cut him off from among his people, because he has given some of his offspring to Molech, so as to defile my sanctuary and profane my holy name. If the people of the land, however, should ever disregard that man when he gives any of his offspring to Molech, so as not to put him to death, then I myself will set my face against that man and against his family, and I will cut off from among their people both him and all those who play the harlot after him by playing the harlot after Molech." Safe to say, I haven't offered my sons to Molech, so got that one. I don't have any sons yet. As for the person who turns to mediums and to spiritists to play the harlot after him, I will also set my face against that person and cut him off from among his people. You shall consecrate yourselves therefore and be holy, for Yahweh, I am Yahweh your Elohim. You shall keep my statutes and practice them, for I am Yahweh who sanctifies you. If there is anyone who curses his father or his mother, he shall surely put to death. He has cursed his father or his mother. His blood guiltness is upon him. So, I've cursed my mom and my father when I was young, so bing! I should already be dead according to the Torah. So, dead man, right here, dead. No life. Dead. If we were in Israel and I had attached myself to the Israelis who came out of the land of Egypt. We're going to get into more detail later, but so if you cursed your mom or dad, you should be dead according to the Torah of Moses. If there's any man who commits adultery with another man's wife, one who commits adultery with his friend's wife, the adulterer and the adulteress shall surely be put to death. Adultery is, you know, I've been married and I'm divorced. Some people say that me being with somebody else since then would be considered adultery. If you want to get into the definitions of adultery, is kissing adultery, you know. We have to get sort of a grayish area, but I can safely say, if not stoned to death, probably well deserving of a few stones. If there is any man who lies with his father's wife, he has uncovered his father's nakedness. Both of them shall surely be put to death. Their bloodness, guiltness is upon them. I haven't slept with my mom, so ding. If there is a man who lies with his daughter-in-law, both of them, no ding rather, shall surely be put to death. They have committed incest. Their blood and guiltness is upon them. If there's any man who lies with a male, as those who lie with a woman, both of them have committed a detestable act. They shall be surely be put to death. Their blood guiltness is upon them. So when you're younger, you know, and you're screwing around with your guy friends, or like, you know, when you're 16 and you get drugged and raped by a guy, I don't know. Should you be put to death? So, safe to say, I'm already dead under the Torah. So this isn't you know, affecting my death already. I'm super dead already. If there is a man who marries a woman and her mother, it is immorality. Both he and they shall be burned with fire, so that there will be no immorality in your midst. If there is a man who lies with an animal, he shall surely be put to death. He shall also kill the animal. So, like, basically the entire continent of Brazil should be put to death, and anybody who's been surfing the net and came across some animal porn, the people who are in that should be put to death, and probably you should at least be stoned a few times for even being so perverted as to watch that. If there is a woman who approaches any animal to mate with it, you shall kill the woman and the animal. They shall be put to death. Their blood guiltness is upon them. If there is a man who takes a sister, his father's daughter-in-law, or his mother's daughter, so that he sees her nakedness and she sees his nakedness, it is a disgrace. They shall be cut off from the sight of the sons of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness, he bears his guilt. If there is a man who lies with a menstruous woman and uncovers her nakedness, he has laid bare her flow, and she has exposed the flow of her blood. Thus both of them shall be cut off from among their people. So, like, you know, if your wife is on her period, and you have sex with her, you should be cut off from Israel. Or, like, you know, if she doesn't tell you, I guess, you know, whatever they call that, the Zorro or the... Anyway, let's not go there. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister or your father's sister, for such a one has made naked his blood relative. They will bear his guilt. If there is a man who lies with his uncle's wife, he has uncovered his uncle's nakedness. They will bear their sin. They will die childless. If there is a man who takes his brother's wife, it is abhorrent. He has uncovered his brother's nakedness. They will be childless. If you are therefore to keep all my statutes and my ordinances and do them, so that the land which I am bringing you to live in will not spew you out. Moreover, you shall not follow the customs of the nation which I will drive out before you, for they did all these things, and therefore I have abhorred them. Hence I have said to you, you are to possess their land, and I will give it to you to possess it, a land flowing with milk and honey. I am Yahuwah your Elohim, who has separated you from the peoples. You are therefore to make a distinction between clean animal and the unclean, and between unclean bird and the clean, and you shall not make yourselves detestable by any animal or bird, or by anything that creeps on the ground, which I have separated for you as unclean. Thus you are to be holy to me, for I am Yahuwah, am holy, and I have set you apart from the peoples to be mine. Now a man or a woman who is a medium or spirituous, they shall be put to death. They will be stoned with stones, and their blood guiltness is upon them. So that's Leviticus chapter 20. And I know that you know, reading through it and doing the dings and all that could be seen as, like, sort of disrespectful. I'm not trying to make a mockery of the Torah, that's for sure. So here we have a group of people coming out of the land of Egypt, being promised the promised land, which would now be the land of Canaan, the land of the east coast of the Mediterranean, the land of Israel. So, I personally have, personally picking up the Torah, the first 5 books of what's called the Bible, and reading it, you run into some pretty glaring problems that, you know, I've never really just sat and talked about before. Like, pretty clearly you have from the get-go some pretty glaring things that nobody really talks about a lot. One is that Moses was raised by the Pharaoh of Egypt, basically in the house of the pharaoh, and he would have known how to perform all the Egyptian sacred rites and whatnot. And Moses had a sort of conversion experience when he was saw the burning bush, and this God who named himself I am what I will be, or Yahuwah in Hebrew, said, here I am, and I'm going to choose you, and you're going to deliver my people, and the rest is sort of history. But some things that I personally don't really don't sit well with me, and never have, is like, what's with all the war? What's with all the killing? Like, why do we have to go all kill each other? Where were we? I was talking about how many ways that that the average person in Canada right now is dead under the Torah Levitical law. And I think it's pretty clear that North American culture isn't like a Torah observant Israeli culture 4,000 years ago leaving Egypt. I think it's pretty safe to say that our culture is different than theirs, and our values and belief systems, a lot of them are in glaring contradiction to them. And another thing I was saying earlier was about Moses, and how he was trained and raised in the house of Pharaoh, and he had a sort of a experience where he saw a burning bush, and the entity speaking to him said that he would deliver the people of Israel from the bondage that they were under in Egypt, and the resulting chase and 10 plagues and then chase through the Red Sea, and resulting drowning of Pharaoh's army got the Israeli people, led by Moses, to the other side of the Red Sea and up into the land of what is now called Israel through multiple and various conflicts. Being a person in the 21st century, looking back on all that, we throw our ideas at it, like why, which is sort of hypocritical of the whole. I was mentioning war earlier. I think that it would have been cooler if there was better ways of intervening. Like there's the story of Joshua and Jericho rather, and they're marching around the city 7 times, and then the walls fall down, and that's one way to win a war. I'm just not really big on war and murdering other people, but some people say, well, if another tribe or another people group come after you, it's not that you're looking for a war, it's that people are bringing a war to you. So do you lay down and say, okay, here's my city, just come on in, sorry, we don't believe in war here, so we're not going to defend ourselves, and yeah, you can take my wife and take my kids, sure. So obviously that's not the answer either. But I guess it just sort of, it's grievousome to read through the Old Testament, what is called the Old Testament, the Old Covenant, the Torah and the writings, the Brit not the Brits, but the old covenant, and read all the wars that happened. And so, where was I? It's safe to say that after reading all those things in Leviticus, if a lot of us were in that culture back then we would be dead, or definitely in need of forgiveness, or some sort of way to appease this, deity that is clearly angry at our carnal nature. Keeping in mind that this deity who created everything had to have in mind that this is what's going to happen. In that same vein of thought, that deity allowed all this to happen, and for some greater plan, I imagine. That being in the middle of a process right now is a little bit more harder to understand than when we're at the end of it, looking backwards through time. So, whether or not you agree with me or not, or whether or not you think that the Levitical the laws in Leviticus are genuine, or whether they are deserving, or whether they represent the deity that you believe in, whether or not you see that the way that Moses did, or that modern day Jewish people do, there is no temple in Israel right now. See, back then they were carrying the temple around with them. They had the Ark of the Covenant and carried it around on poles of wood covered by gold, and they would drape it with a sheet of blue fabric, and they would take it to where the Lord was leading them by a pillar of smoke by day and fire by night. And ultimately, when they got to the land of what's called Israel now, there was a designated area that the temple was to be built on, and we've had 3 temples now. The temple of David, which his son Solomon finished in like 500 BC, and then that one was destroyed by the Babylonians, modern day Iraq. And then another one was rebuilt, and then last of all, there's this in 70 AD, this Roman Emperor Titus that destroyed the temple. And as it stands right now in Jerusalem, there is the Muslim Dome of the Rock sitting on this temple that has thousands of years of history to the Israeli people and Jewish people specifically now. Jewish people being one tribe of 12 out of the 12 tribes of Israel that are easier to trace some of their lineage, because they remained in the southern kingdom after the northern and southern kingdom split under Jeroboam. So yeah, the Jews became the, when you say, are you a Jew? Really, the tribe of Judah is one tribe of 12, so also included in that 12 are the tribes of Dan, the tribes of Asher, and Naphtali, and Ephraim, and etc., etc. So are you of the tribe of Dan? Are you a Danite? People don't say it, but they do say, are you a Jew? But a long succession of conflicts and infighting got it to be to where it is today. So whether or not you agree in the priestly system that was set up by this Moses guy with his deity behind him, some people would say that the old covenant of the Moses Levitical covenant is a flawed system, and whether or not that's the case, there is no temple, and like I keep saying, there is no temple in Jerusalem right now, so it's sort of almost like a moot point right now. There are people that want the temple to be rebuilt. There's you can go online and just Google Temple Institute or something like that. There's this place called the Temple Institute that is rebuilding, wants to rebuild the temple, and other people. But I mean, it's a pretty severe contention point. I mean, from the top of the Dome of the Rock, it sort of looks like a button, and I've often said that you press that button and see what happens. But you can trace throughout the 60s and 70s all the various skirmishes that have happened with the Dome of the Rock, and it's no small deal when somebody goes and lights a fire in the Dome of the Rock or destroys something. I mean, it incites the entire Muslim community in the world, which is a pretty big community to irritate, to put it lightly. And that will be, of course, some sort of end game scenario conflict. It seems to be pretty obvious. So, speaking of Moses, I mean, some people would say he's this, he's that. I mean, nowadays, Moses would probably be in jail because he admittedly murdered somebody, and he thought it was a good way to act. But nowadays, all of our biblical heroes that we have would be, by today's standards, either military heroes or in jail. King David, they said Saul has slain his thousands, but David his 10,000. So we could call that mass murder. If you're a part of the military-industrial complex, you might have war medals all up here. And knowing all these things that I know, and after reading this book 12 times and studying various religions for the last 10 years, I suppose I should have one of these, right? For all the things I know. But I have no desire to be a part of the Catholic, Roman Catholic, or any sort of Western secular man-made spiritual hierarchy. So that's another thing, is that teachers, what qualifies you to be a teacher? What qualifies anybody to be a teacher of anything? There are specific instructions for teachers under Levitical law, under the Torah of Moses, and mainstream Christian pastors or Roman pastors don't meet that, so right away they have to say, okay, well, we're not a part of that system, so clearly they've differentiated themselves between Israel and whatever they are, and at the same time they'll talk about the gates of the kingdom in the new the new kingdom, and there's no Christian gate or Roman Catholic gate. They're all named after tribes of Israel, and their Messiah and their king was of the tribe of Judah, and was an Israeli king, an Israeli Messiah. So, who was a Torah-observant Jew from the tribe of Judah. So we have some pretty glaring problems that we're sorting out, as a people. And here I am in the middle of all this history, trying to make some sense of it. So the whole sacrificial system is another thing to talk about. Like right now, there aren't bulls and goats and cows and whatnot and sheep being sacrificed in Israel in the temple, because there is no temple. So Christians sometimes get into this debate of like the Levitical sacrificial system versus whatever they think they're under now, or whatever they do. And it's not much of a debate because there is no temple, and even if 20,000 people got together in one room and agreed that we should go back to the sacrificial system in the Torah, it's not going to happen. So we don't have to have it done properly. All these sacrifices need to be done in the specific place that the Dome of the Rock is occupying right now. If it's done anywhere else, it's not kosher. Kosher being fit to eat according to Jewish law. kosher, dairy, kosher is defined in Leviticus chapter 11, I thought. If my mind is remembering it right. Yeah, here we go. Kosher. Yahweh. Every time you read the Lord in all capitals, it's actually the Tetragrammaton. It's not actually the Lord. Translators put that in so as not to break a commandment that says you shall not take the name of the Lord your Lord your God in vain. But of course, even then, it wasn't the name of the Lord, it was the name of Yahuwah. Here we are today, you know. Instead of taking the name in vain, we don't say the name at all, which is bringing it to nothing, which is taking it in vain. But hey, here we are. Yahuwah spoke again to Moses and to Aaron, saying to them, Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, These are the creatures which you may eat from all the animals of the earth, whatever divides the hoof, whatever making split hooves and chews the cud among the animals you may eat. Nevertheless, you are not to eat of these among who chew the cud. And it goes on, the camel, the pig, the rabbit. So it goes on and on and on and on and on. No eating eagles. So this is Moses saying that his deity, who was leading the Israelis out of Egypt and under that bondage, he was saying that this particular deity wants you to be separate and different than the people around you, and these animals you're not to eat, and this system you're supposed to follow until further notice. And here we are, thousands of years later. We aren't able to have a sacrificial system because the temple was destroyed. So people pray against the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, in the old city of Jerusalem, and they pray for the temple to be rebuilt. Other people still pray for the Messiah to come, the King of the Kingdom of Israel, who will, rule the entire world. And some people don't pray for him to come. Some people pray for him to return because they believe he's already come in one form and then will return in another. And the global elites who control the steering committee of world events know all this and take it all into consideration, are trying to pull hoaxes probably, and get more power from hoaxing all the believers and all the people that will blindly follow after whatever they decide to hoax you with, be it a alien invasion. An alien comes down and says that we have to have one world religion, and this is wrong and that was wrong, and of course if he can do miracles, we'll all be swayed because everybody likes a miracle. So you look at the ways that you're dead underneath the Levitical system, underneath the Torah. You look at the ways that you're dead by the law, and you think, wow, if that is what sin is to you, and then I have sinned, and I didn't make the Torah, you did, so I have sinned and need some sort of forgiveness, or I should be dead. Either way we look at it, I'm dead under the Torah, so I need forgiveness, and then that leads you to ask for forgiveness, and then the preachers come along and say, well, as a matter of fact, the same God who wrote the Torah also provided your forgiveness without the sacrificial system, which you think is great because there is no temple in Jerusalem that you could go and pay your sacrifice or get your sheep or whatever sliced up. why a deity who has the ability to create planets needs a sacrifice of a dead sheep from Earth to be appeased is sort of beyond me, and these are questions that I do plan on asking that deity once I'm out of this body, or at least getting clarity on. But regardless, I understand the need for forgiveness if you piss somebody off, which I've done a lot of in my life. But skip forward to where the preachers say in John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever would believe in him would not perish but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to judge the world, but that the world might be saved through him. He who believes in him is not judged. He who does not believe has been judged already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son of God." It goes on about light and darkness, and then you might be aware that the rest of that story goes that this character was crucified and died, to be reported by his followers to have risen again, and done several a miracle, and then and the book of John, Revelation, towards the end, the back, that's actually the last book of the canonical Bible, thanks to the people who canonized the different books back before we were all born. And you see that this character, this Messiah character, whose name is an entire other topic that you can go online and Google what was the Messiah's name and teach yourself. But this character comes back in the book of Revelation and takes over the reins of the New World Order. So the New World Order and the global elite are setting up a one world government, one world religion, and it seems that through all their efforts they fail when he comes and slays the dragon with the breath of his mouth. And when he takes the reins of the one world order and the one world government and rules and reigns over mankind from Jerusalem for 1,000 years, and then after that resolves all authority to his Father and his Elohim, his God, as it's put. And then I'm guessing we all go back to what you read in the first book of Genesis, or Bereshith. You read about how God and man, these intergalactic deities and man, dwelled together. And maybe they're human-like aliens who created this planet. Maybe they're something entirely different, and angels and demons and all these things will become clear later, I'm sure. But the idea would be after this 1,000-year rule and reign of the Messiah King coming, which hasn't happened yet, but will come in physical form, according to the book of Revelation and other prophecies, i.e. the book of Daniel and Ezekiel and others, even in Genesis, I believe. And there's a whole collection of prophecies. So anyway, these are exciting times that we live in, and we're sort of in between then and now. A lot of these things have happened and are still yet to come. And I think that the coming Messiah to rule and reign from Jerusalem, taking over the reins of the New World Order, is pretty friggin' exciting, I think, because I don't really like what the New World Order and global elites have been doing so far. So I'm imagining that when he takes the reins, it's going to be one of those, like, yeah, that's the way it should have been done from the beginning, and even though some things I have to correct, it's better that it's done in righteousness than the way the government of the world has been run. And we can see clearer now more than ever that the New World Order is trying to set up a new international order, as coined by pretty much every major politician right now, and the precedents being set by the United Nations directing independent governments to war, as we're seeing. So, a international order and one world government is being set up. But I do believe that in the end, it will be taken over by this Messiah character, which a lot of people who have problems with a one world government will still have problems with his one world government, but ultimately, things of that nature, of I don't like what you do, but you're doing it anyway, come down to power. And unfortunately for some people, if you have the creative power to create the world, and if you have the creative power to create universes, and you don't have a rival when it comes to that power, then it's sort of unfortunate, but from the sense of somebody else wanting that power, but it is, in that sense, what it is, and your opinion or my opinion will not change that. Yeah. Whether or not you want me to have an example, whether or not you want me to have said this blog, or whether you don't like it, doesn't change the fact that I just did. So, here we are. And there's so many things that are hidden from us, and so many things that we don't know, and so many things that people who are in powerful positions have been keeping from us. But I do believe that one day these things will be made clear, and until then, this is where we live. This is where we exist right now. That's my blog, my blog. Thanks for tuning in to AJOB 30. Tell your friends to get a job.